Are the New Orleans Saints targeting Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe? Ladies and gentlemen, today, the backdrop, off the bench. Jacob Hester, T-Bob, and then the face of the franchise right here doing what only I can do. Now, this Jalen Milroe talk's been very interesting. So Jalen Milroe, up until about 10 hours ago, was considered a mid-round pick, developmental player, what have you. Well, now news came out that he's being invited and has accepted an invite to the green room at the draft. Now, the green room at the draft is primarily for first-round picks. And it's primarily for, we've all seen the videos, the infamous videos of Will Levis falling and Aaron Rodgers falling and Brady Quinn, where it's the awkward, the players just sitting there in the green room. It's very uncomfortable television. So the NFL does not want that to happen. They don't want to invite third-round picks to the green room to just have them sit around. So is there rumor or is there information that Jalen Milroe could go in the first round, which is insane to me? Someone go on Reddit and say, if you were drafting all of the New Orleans content creators, what would the draft look like? What would the order be? Who would go first overall? Now, if we look at the draft order real quick, in my opinion, if a team wants to take him in the first round, it has to be a team towards the bottom of the draft. Let's just say from 20 down. It's got to be a team that is willing to develop him. It's going to take a few seasons, at least one, before he's ready to play. Or it could be a team that would trade back into the first to take him because potentially they don't have a second round pick. Team that fits that bill is the Steelers. Okay, late pick in the first, don't have a second round pick. Remember that went in the DK Metcalf trade. Quarterback needy. Would Pittsburgh be willing to either take Jalen Milroe at 21 or get back into the first round and take Jalen Milroe like the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson? Another team I think is interesting is the Rams. The Rams have Matthew Stafford. The Rams are sitting at 26. Do they take Milroe with the understanding of we'll let him sit for a couple years behind Stafford? Sean McVay is a very progressive coach. Maybe he's seeing he does have some of these traits. Maybe I can fix the other traits and maybe I can get my version of, Jalen Hurts or whatever. Okay. The rest of these guys, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, Commanders, Lions, Ravens, Texans don't really make sense. Packers don't make sense. Chargers don't make sense. Vikings don't really make sense. So really in the bottom half here is the Steelers and the Rams that I would see. Now, I say the bottom half because even if you like Jalen Milroe, I don't think it's feasible at all for a team to take him in the first round in the top 20 picks. It would be nuts if obviously it would be insane if he goes top 10. But then if he goes from, the Bears wouldn't take him, Niners maybe, but at 11, no way. Cowboys, again, no. They just got Joe Milton. Dolphins at 13, I don't think so. 14, Colts, again, you see what I'm going here. So I only see a couple landing spots in the first round, but it is an interesting conversation now, so let's go ahead with that context and discuss.
New Orleans Saints have met with yet another quarterback, and unfortunately, if you're an LSU fan, it's one that you are all too familiar with. As this is from a Jordan Schultz, quote, sources, Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe had private workouts with the Saints and Browns that were described as impressive. He also met with key members of the Jets offensive staff and the Steelers prior to his pro day last month. I want to talk about Milroe specifically, but also overall, the New Orleans Saints doing their homework on this quarterback class. It's making me think more and more that with the plethora of picks that they have in this upcoming draft, that at some point they are planning to take a flyer on a quarterback, which would be.
Yeah, Saints are in a unique position where they're they more than likely will have their chance to draft the second quarterback off the board if Cam Ward goes 1. For a second there was conversations of trading up 2-1 to get Cam Ward. We know that the entire New Orleans Saints staff was at Cam Ward's pro day. Tolzien, the quarterback coach, was at Shedeur Sanders' pro day. The Saints are now the betting favorite to land Shedeur Sanders. On top of that, this is a deep quarterback class where you have Jackson Dart, you have Quinn Ewers, you have Jalen Milroe, you have Kyle McCord. Like, you have quarterbacks around deep into the, in every round, basically, there is a quarterback that you can get. So the Saints certainly should be doing their due diligence, and they certainly have done their due diligence.
Be in keeping with some of their recent actions when you look at Jake Haener and you look at Spencer Rattler. But now I guess the key difference would be is you have the winningest college quarterback of all time doing the evaluation in Kellen Moore, and you have Doug Nussmeier, right? You've got Scott Tolzien. It's a new quarterback think tank.
Not only that, but you have a offensive-minded head coach. I mean, you have a young offensive-minded head coach who, I don't know if everyone's forgotten, won the Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator, okay, with a very unique offense, with a dominant offense. All right, so, and Kellen Moore has seen a unique plethora, to steal T-Bob's word, of quarterbacks in his career with Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, and Jalen Hurts. So, yeah, and that's why, I hate to boil it down to just business decisions, but Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener are really kind of behind the 8 ball here. Jake Haener's behind the 8 ball because he sucks. Spencer Rattler's behind the 8 ball because he was drafted, and then the people who drafted him and thought about developing him and was in the room with him for a year and all that, they're gone pecan. So they're kind of in no man's land. It is not crazy for a new coaching staff to want their guy. All right. We saw the same thing in Chicago with Justin Fields and how all that played out. So this is pretty normal. I hate to make it so, 1 + 1 = 2, but I don't think Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener really have a chance unless they just go nuts at some point between now and when their time moves on. Because even if the Saints do draft a quarterback later on, like let's say they draft Kyle McCord. Let's say they pass on Shedeur Sanders, don't take Jackson Dart, don't take Milroe, whatever, they take Kyle McCord. If they take Kyle McCord is their new Spencer Rattler. And Jake Haener's out the door, and Spencer Rattler is soon to be out the door, barring some insane performance in training camp or whatever else. Like, it's just the time clock, it's just the window, it's just the contracts, it's just how it all lines up. And I explained this last year when it came with Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler, where the second they draft Rattler, he's got an enormous advantage over Haener, even though he's only a year behind Haener. Because Rattler was drafted with Clint Kubiak in the room. He's the OC. Like, he's seeing the development. He's doing this. He's got his ideas. So if the Saints do draft a quarterback, I don't care if they draft him in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. That's their guy. That's this staff's guy.
That is doing the evaluation. They've now worked out and had private meetings with Quinn Ewers. They've been linked to Kyle McCord, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. Oh, obviously Shedeur Sanders. Jalen Milroe, the latest to enter the mix here. Let's start with talking about Milroe alone. I have a feeling that Milroe's price will be a bit too rich for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, so Milroe is in no man's land for the Saints. If he is truly a first-round pick, he certainly isn't a top 10 pick. He's towards the bottom of the first round. The Saints don't have a pick in the bottom of the first round. The Saints definitely don't want to trade up for him, right? Like, it's already kind of a stretch that Milroe would go in the bottom of the first. To then trade up to get him in the bottom of the first is way too rich. On top of, the Saints are not in a position to where they have the luxury to take a quarterback and say, we know he's a developmental guy. We're going to let him sit for a couple of years. Don't worry about it, like the Rams could. Saints aren't in that world right now. Saints are in the world of drafting players that they think can make enormous impacts pretty damn quick. In Shedeur Sanders' case, it would be next year. All right. And they're thinking he's the franchise quarterback. Jalen Milroe comes with a lot of volatility. Real quick, as far as a prospect, Milroe is good at running the ball, very good on his feet, a very good north and south runner. Similar almost to how Josh Allen runs, just quarterback power, give him the ball in his hand, let him run straight forward. He's got a huge arm. What he is not good at is the thing that every quarterback should be good at: intermediate short throws. He's horrible in that world. Milroe has some real question marks when it comes to his ability to play quarterback. His ability to that short intermediate and everything else that comes with it. As an athlete, as a guy with a big arm, great on his feet, great running the ball, that's not in question. All right? The Saints are not in a position to take him. He has become, if we're assuming him going to the green room means it's a first-round pick, the Saints are in no position to draft him. Literally, they're not in the draft spot that he's going to fall. They're in no position to trade up to get him, and they're in no position to roster him, develop him, and give him the time that he needs to succeed.
I don't think he's going to fall that far because from a pure physical perspective, he has a superpower. Like, he has the most upside because of his athleticism. He just doesn't have the more traditional QB skill set that some of the others do. Where would Jalen Milroe have to fall, Jake, for you to want to take a shot at him?
It depends on what the Saints do first, right? Like, if the Saints take Shedeur, the answer is he doesn't matter. You're not taking him. You're not taking two quarterbacks, right? I don't care what you do with Milroe. I don't care if he's a pseudo halfback, pseudo quarterback, pseudo whatever. You do not take both. So if you take Shedeur, the answer is is infinite. He could infinitely fall, and you're not drafting him. If you don't take Shedeur, if he's there in it all depends, because even I was going to say third, but if one of the wide receivers is there in the third, and you can get whoever, name your receiver, you would get the receiver, because again, you're not in the position to wait and develop this guy. You've got to get impact players.
Well, I don't know where I would want him to fall, but the Saints feel like all this homework that they've done, they're taking a quarterback at 9 or 40. It's going to happen.
Oh, so you think that early? So then I'm wrong about the price being that rich.
No, I think if they don't take one at 9, they are going to take a quarterback at 40.
Well,
the problem with 40. Okay. Now, here's the problem with 40. That also might be no man's land. If we assume the Saints pass on Sanders, that would mean Sanders probably goes to the Steelers. Do you think Jackson Dart would then fall from 21 to 40? I would say no. So if the Saints, if their plan is to not take Sanders at 9 and take one at 40, they're probably going to have to trade up to take a quarterback. So that sounds a lot less awesome. What I think would happen in the scenario Jake just presented is that the Saints would pass on him at 9, pass at 40, and look to take a quarterback in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. Whoever that may be. Whichever of these 15 different quarterbacks they like. Could be Will Howard. Okay. We haven't even mentioned him. But could be a situation where you take Mason Graham at 9, wide receiver at 40, Will Howard with your next pick. But I don't think you can get a quarterback without heavily reaching at 40.
That would seem like
they have put so much work into this quarterback class. Now, I mean, even Mel Kiper Jr., he comes out with a mock draft about an hour ago. He's got Shedeur Sanders, number 9 overall, to the Saints.
Which our own Ross Jackson of LouisianaSports.net also did yesterday.
I think at this point, everybody, even Vegas, has the Saints as the landing spot for Sanders.
Oh.
So it feels like they are going quarterback no matter what. Now, if someone they really love falls to them at 9 that can help their team right now, that can play right now, maybe they select that player at 9, and then 40 is when they take their quarterback. I do believe there's going to be quarterbacks at 40 that are valuable. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft that actually 40 would fit about where they need to be drafted.
Whom?
So the Saints are going to have a decision that they've got to make. If Shedeur Sanders is still on the board at number 9, are they willing to pass him up? Because it does feel like he is the one that they've identified as their top quarterback on the board. And maybe Cam Ward is. They know they're not going to get Cam Ward.
Nobody's getting Cam Ward, yeah.
I remember, I believe, and I might have this wrong because I don't ingest a lot of ESPN. I'm pretty sure Mel Kiper's number 1 quarterback is Shedeur. I think Mel has Shedeur higher rated than Cam Ward. I might be wrong about that. But now that doesn't mean he thinks Shedeur is going to go before Cam Ward, but I think Mel has him graded out higher.
But Mel Kiper's got Shedeur Sanders as his top quarterback.
Am I on a different level? Am I? I just gave myself goosebumps. I may have to cut my foot off because of frostbitten toes. I mean, the goosebumps are real, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, can y'all see the goosebumps right there? Can y'all see the? No, of course not. God, I'm the best in the world. I really am the best at this. I mean, I really am the face of the franchise. I really am on a whole different level. If you had a draft, think about this. If you had a draft of sports personalities, radio show hosts, however you want to phrase it, TV person, whatever. I mean, just do New Orleans. That would be a fun. Someone go on Reddit. This would be a really fun conversation. Someone go on Reddit and say, if you were drafting all of the New Orleans content creators, what would the draft look like? What would the order be? Who would go first overall? Who would go second overall? Who would go third overall? What's that draft order look like? That's an interesting. I'm giving you that for free, ladies and gentlemen. Get on over there, post it. I want to check it out. I want to see what's going on.
And so he's got him going 9th overall.
Mel.
He's got him going 9th overall to the Saints. And so, again, we talked about this yesterday. This is nothing to do with Sanders, the player. It's what you need right now, and it doesn't get filled at 9 with your current quarterback situation and Derek Carr and the contract and what you're going to be paying him. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially when you think about who's going to be available next year in this.
See, I think it does make a lot of sense. I'll let Jacob continue.
Draft at the quarterback position. But, if they do select him, they'll do something they haven't done in 50 years, and this is somebody that they'd have to fall in love with, I think, to select at 9 because you've got other needs that are more pressing right now, and you could still get, I think, a starting quality quarterback at 40.
So what do you say?
I don't think so, but I think you could. What are the Saints' needs at 9? Okay, a lot, right? Virtually everything. Now, there's a world where you fall into kind of a no man's land where the board breaks weird, and you're looking at your number 2 wide receiver, your number 2 tight end, your number 2 defensive or edge, your number 2 interior defensive lineman. You're looking at if a lot of people get taken ahead of you, then you're falling down your board or your player raters or whatever. You're falling down there pretty significantly. And it's like, do you reach on Matthew Golden? Do you reach on whoever your guy is? And then you have some guys who are there like Jod Campbell, who I love Jod Campbell, but he did just have surgery. And he is going to miss the beginning of the season. I mean, he had labrum surgery, so I think that'll be fine in the long term. But even him, it's like, oh, no, I would take Jod Campbell over Shedeur Sanders because I need an immediate impact. But even he's not really an immediate impact, right? So it's a very weird situation, and a very weird situation usually comes with very weird results. If Shedeur went 2nd overall, no one would bat an eye. If he went 3rd overall, no one would bat an eye. I'm going to say something that's going to make a lot of people in the comment section upset. Shedeur is better. This is going to piss a lot of people off. As of right now anything can happen, but as of right now, I believe that Shedeur Sanders is a better prospect right now than I'm forecasting Garrett Nussmeier or Arch Manning to be. Now, Garrett Nussmeier and Arch Manning could go out and have greatest years of all time and be clear-cut number ones, whatever. But the idea of pass on Sanders because maybe you'll draft Nussmeier next year. Well, what if Nussmeier sucks? And what if Nussmeier is a 4th-round pick, 5th-round pick? What if Arch Manning's not very good? Or what if they're really good and they go 1st overall, 2nd overall? Do you think you're going to draft there? You're hoping you get better than last year, so you may be drafting 15th, 16th, 17th. So you're saying pass on Sanders now and take your franchise quarterback when you don't have Derek Carr, you don't have any security blanket, take your franchise quarterback at 18. It's like, well, who the hell knows if a franchise quarterback's going to be at 18? Who knows what the future is going to hold as far as quarterbacks and prospects and where you're going to draft and all that. If this is an insane metaphor, but I've been using it to talk about the stock market with the tariffs. If your favorite cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch and you walk into the store and you see it's 25% off, you'd be thrilled as hell and you'd buy it on the spot, right? You wouldn't say, well, I'm going to wait because it might be off. It might be 30% off next week. You don't know what the sale is going to look like next week. It might never be 25% off again, right? So trying to forecast stuff like that when the known quantity is here. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is 25% off right now. Buy 3-4 boxes. Be done with it. Shedeur Sanders is going to be there at 9. Draft him. And then you don't have to draft a quarterback next year. And you don't have to draft a quarterback the following year. And you don't have to draft one the following year. If it all works out, of course. We can get out of this cycle of drafting a 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round quarterback every single year. We can get out of the cycle of Ian Book, Garrett Grayson, Jake Hayner, who the hell ever else. Get out of that. Spencer Rattler. I mean, you get out of that cycle. Take the guy. Take who some people say is the best quarterback in the class. The board has broken your way. 1st overall pick is Cam Ward. You got Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. You got not a quarterback. Think about how rare that is. That 5, 6, 7, 8 in the draft are not quarterback needy teams. That is kind of crazy. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are not quarterback needy teams. That is ultra rare. Ultra rare. And you throw in, also 2 and 3 who are quarterback needy teams. There are, some say, generational prospects in Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter that they can't pass on. So the Saints at 9, it is a risk and he could be a bust, but I think it's crazy if you have a high grade on Sanders to not take him at 9 because you think you can either get a quarterback at 40 or you're willing to wait and see whatever happens with next year.
Yeah, I mean, but didn't they choose? Okay, so this is interesting because we've kind of naturally morphed back into litigating Shedeur here, and I almost feel different than I did yesterday because I don't know. Maybe it's a deal where I was kind of closed off to it because I didn't think it's realistic because it didn't seem like the Saints had a ton of momentum that direction. I mean, didn't they just skip his workout or his one of the workouts that he did? Do I have my
I know
story
Sanders
wrong?
I think he's talking about that Kellen Moore didn't go to the showcase.
in Tennessee aren't going to have a workout anymore.
No, I thought there was no, I know that. I thought that the Saints decided against sending like Kellen Moore to his pro day or it just doesn't seem like there's been a lot of like the same way we have stories about them having the private workout and hosting Quinn Ewers. Now they're having the private workout with Jalen Milroe. There's so many storylines. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that has not been the case with the Saints and Shedeur yet, right? I'm looking around the room, guys.
I haven't heard of
telling you, I
one.
don't
Okay, that's
know.
fine. If we're wrong, but I'm saying, but that I'm just making sure we're all on the same page. So my question then becomes, is this gamesmanship? If they're really going to take him at 9, are they trying to convince people that they aren't so nobody tries to trade up ahead of them at 8? Like,
right, I see what you're saying.
Is that what's going on here, or are they actually not interested? Because I think some of my hesitance on Shedeur definitely came from the fact that I just didn't think Saints were interested, and so I wasn't going to allow myself to go there. Now that we're talking this out loud, if you're telling me that it's realistic and that they're going to do that and may do that, well, that becomes kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a damn about the ball padding, holding on to it, time to throw, whatever.
The most sacks in the NCAA.
Well, and me and Taylor were talking about this yesterday. It's a question of, does he hold on the ball so long in Colorado because he knows he can and he's just trying to make a play?
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, Sanders, he does hold on to the ball too long, but is very similar to Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams was absolutely famous for holding on to the ball forever at USC. And we all saw the plays where he's running around side to side, looping around backwards, holding on to it, whatever. That shit don't work in the NFL. And Shedeur did that at Colorado. He would hold on to the ball, hero mentality, take sacks, kill drives. I think it is much the other reason you would hold on to the ball if you're going through your progressions and all that and it's taking way too long. I think he's more of the hero ball kind of guy, which you would think is probably easier to just be like, hey, man, you can't be doing that. Same with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams had trouble with that at the beginning of his NFL career. You go look at the first couple of games with Caleb Williams, he's trying to do the same stuff he did at USC. Holding onto the ball, dropping it down by his knees, kind of trying to delay the play, and then all hell broke loose. It just doesn't happen in the NFL. So that's what I think a majority of Shedeur's issue was.
But he has the ability to get rid of it quickly, or can he not process fast enough? And I'm willing to give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt in that regard, that it is the former, not the latter, but that is a big risk. That is certainly a big risk. Shedeur would look cool in the black and gold, though, dude.
He would.
Okay.
They asked Dion about it.
No, Dion's been pushing it hard.
They even asked Shedeur about Kellen Moore, and he seeed
Coach
to say
Teeth?
really good things about Coach Teeth.
He better. Like, you don't want to set that where you're.
What if he was like, nah,
ain't really it.
Well, I mean, all those questions and answers, like, that's so PR. Like, that doesn't really matter.
To be fair,
well,
if
I just meant he was
would,
like praising him. That's all I meant.
No, for sure. But if anybody,
this is more of a this time of year. Like, you have to make sure that you're saying the right things. Then,
and for what it's worth, Adam Schefter is adamant on him going to the Saints at 9. Brian Dable met with Abdul Carter the other day, so they think he's going to fall because of that.
For what it's worth, other quarterbacks, and again, this is mock draft, we know what that is, but still, like, on the radar, Jackson Dart at 26 to the Rams. Then you go to early in the second round, back-to-back picks to start out the second round. Tyler Shuck from Louisville, 33 to the Browns. Jalen Milroe, 34 to the Giants.
So
that's the whole thing. Like how Jacob just said, you could get a great quarterback at 40. I don't think you can, because you're like 5 or 6 quarterbacks deep at that point, because you have to dodge Pittsburgh, you have to dodge the Rams, you have to dodge teams coming back into the first, but then you have to dodge the organic picks of Cleveland and New York. So like Jackson Dart and Shedeur or whoever, they can't get to 40. Let's say you pass on Shedeur, 21 goes quarterback, Rams go quarterback, Browns go quarterback, Giants go quarterback. Like, you're passing on Shedeur to take the 6th quarterback in the class. Why would, that doesn't make any sense. If you knew Jackson Dart would be there at 40, yeah, take whoever at 9, take Dart at 40, move on. But, because then you're not taking Kyle McCord or whoever, Jalen Milroe at 40, right? Like, then you're waiting even longer and delaying even longer. And what have you done? You found yourself back in the familiar territory of taking Garrett Grayson, Ian Book, Jay Kaner, and Spencer Rattler in the 5th round.
That's the other question I was going to ask is, if you were going to take a quarterback at 40, who would that be?
I'm going to be honest, for the Giants, though, if they could get Milroe at 34, and then at number 3 they get Abdul Carter, that's better than getting.
Wait, who are the Browns taking in this scenario?
It looks like the Browns are going to go
Hunter.
Travis Hunter instead.
Oh,
Or what I think would happen, you take Travis Hunter at 3, you're the Giants, you trade back into the first, jump the Steelers, and take Shedeur Sanders. And then you have Sanders and Travis Hunter, and you're the Giants. That's how I would do it.
It's kind of the thing yesterday. And the Browns came out, Andrew Berry and all them said they actually prefer him at wide receiver.
I said that. God, I'm so far ahead. Travis Hunter's generational wide receiver prospect, not a DB, and he can't be, in my opinion, a generational wide receiver if he's also playing DB. So, like I said 2 weeks ago, they should tell Travis, look, brother, you can play a couple of snaps at defensive back if you really want, but you are a wide receiver. Work on being a wide receiver. Work on being the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Look, Travis Hunter can play. I don't know how to project that. He can play wherever he wants.
Yeah,
figure out. Like I don't really know, but I would. Ooh, man, I just thought there was something about teaming up Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter that just felt like unstoppable. Maybe a bit of too many resources in the same spot, but sheesh.
I agree, but
you get a true 2-for-1 though with Travis Hunter.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And
I don't think you do. Because like I just said, I think if you do plan on playing him at both positions, all of a sudden you get above average wide receiver, average to below average defensive back. And his question is, like, do you want that or do you want elite wide receiver and nothing else? I would much rather the elite wide receiver than the above average to average wide receiver and average to below average defensive back.
You can use him however you want. Hey, here's what you're going to do. Travis Hunter, you're going to play 25 snaps of offense and 40 plays of defense, or however you want that. And he has shown, at least in the college level, we'll see if it translates, that he can do it both at an elite level. Like, it's probably not getting talked enough about just the value that you would get there.
Now, you're not going to hear a lot of people say this, but you also had to flip it to where you run the risk of like an injury eliminating 2 positions, right? So that's also part of it. Like, not last year, but the year before, I think he ruptured his spleen or his kidney or something. He has some kind of issue like that. Well, if something like that happens in the pros, okay, now you're down 2 spots. Now the injury is double as significant.
Because he's open, willing, and wanting to play both sides of the football.
Also, like, they were 31st in the NFL in touchdowns scored last year. Like, you need a weapon.
Travis Hunter's falling to the Ravens, though. Y'all saw the video yesterday? That video was so funny. Interesting. This is kind of crazy because as we're talking this out, I mean, I literally had this started as a Jalen Milroe segment.
Yeah, how did this happen?
And yet now I'm having visions of a number 2 black and gold jersey dancing in my head.
Aaron Brooks?
I'm kind of into this, dude. I'm very into this. You mentioned the Giants getting Milroe at 30 something, Jake, and I think that I'm with you. That'd be very good for New York.
I mean, if you get Abdul Carter and Jalen Milroe,
and then Jalen Milroe gets to learn at the feet of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, who, regardless of what you think.
Now, see, the Giants, they have positioned themselves. Like, ladies and gentlemen, you have to sometimes put the Sudoku puzzle together to give yourself the answer of like who's going where. For everything that we said about the Giants getting Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and how it makes absolutely no sense to do that if you are going with Shedeur Sanders, it makes a ton of sense to do that if you are going for Jalen Milroe. Because you're good this year with Russell. Russell's on a 1-year deal. If he wants to go somewhere else next year, then you have Jameis, who you can turn to Jameis if Jalen's not ready, and you're still good to give him another year of development. You're fine to give this guy 2 years. Okay, now the problem with the Giants and that whole scenario is that I don't know if Daboll would survive 2 years unless Russell, this year was good. So then it's like, well, then you're getting drafted by a coaching staff who isn't around, but and that can be kind of problematic. But the Giants are a pretty good fit for Milroe. And we've seen what Daboll can do with Daniel Jones, who is a versatile run-first kind of quarterback. We've seen him at his best when the Giants made the playoffs a couple years ago. So the Giants do make a little bit of sense there. The Saints, unfortunately, if you're a Jalen Milroe fan, the Saints do not.
Think about where they are now would be very good mentor figures in terms of how do you become a very successful quarterback in the NFL and be a professional. Okay.
All right.
I'm not
drafting Shedeur Sanders, first round quarterback 50. I'm into it. I take back everything I said yesterday. If this is real, if you guys are allowing me to actually open my heart to this,
it's for sure real.
Then I'm into it.
Now, and the other scenario that you were about to get into is you're trying to get the Steelers, probably, that's who I think I would identify, at 21 to move up to 9 to select Sanders.
Well, but the problem
is,
is,
ahead of you.
How would you?
That's not good. This is fugazi. This whole thing about like they're playing liar's dice to try and tantalize teams to move up. The Steelers would just sit and take dart. They're not going to trade from 21 to 9 because of some, Trojan horse or whatever the Saints are sending it. So you don't play 27D chess when it comes to needing and getting a franchise quarterback. Get your guy. Quit playing games. Quit being cutesy. This is 36-year-old Kellen Moore's first draft. This is his first draft as a head coach. You think the first thing he's doing is figuring out how to be cutesy tootsie, and get the Steelers to trade up from 21 to 9? No, not the case. Now, are they saying, hey, let's not show our hand, let's try and keep some stuff close to the vest? Yeah, I'm sure teams don't want other teams to know exactly what they're doing, but the Saints need to worry about the Saints. The Saints need to worry about making this team better. The Saints need to worry about building this roster up, drafting the right players, executing when it comes to the scouting department. They don't need to worry about trying to be the next Phil Hellmuth and have the best bluffs and whatnot. Get the right players. Don't be cute.
That's what I'm saying. How do you entice people to trade for your pick when there's nobody behind you that wants him? Right? Like, that's the issue. You need somebody at 10 who needs a quarterback, but you don't have that. Now, somebody might want to trade to 8.
Right. And if you think about it for literally 10 seconds, then them not sending Kellen Moore doesn't make any sense. If you want it to make it look like you are going to take Shedeur Sanders to make people trade for your pick, then you should have sent Kellen Moore to the showcase. You shouldn't have said, well, we're not sending Kellen Moore because, we want to hold all of our cards. If your whole idea is to bluff your way for Pittsburgh to come up and get your pick, you should be all hands on deck at that showcase. It should have been Mickey Loomis, Kellen Moore, Tolzien, me sitting in lawn chairs watching in number 2 Saints replica jerseys. That's what you should have done, to where other teams are like, damn, the Saints are taking Shedeur. We have to trade up to 9 if we want to get him. So literally 5 seconds implodes all of the idea that the Saints are trying to play it cool.
Like that's what's at play here.
Losing my voice.
I think maybe that's why the Saints are being so demure on the Sanders front and working out all these other guys.
I don't know what that means, but
I think it means like,
I know
I don't really know.
Yeah, me
very
cute. Gosh, again, this has nothing to do with Sanders. Now, I'm not saying that I love him as a first-round quarterback. I think he's a good college player. I love how accurate he was, 74%. You love that. I don't love how long he took to get the football out. Like you said, was that because he felt like he could? I don't think so, because he took the most sacks, and so he actually couldn't do that in college.
Yeah, but if you take the most sacks and you're taking the sacks because you're holding on to try and let the play develop and be a hero, like that, that's you got to go back and watch the sacks. I mean, do that. Like if you want to know the answer, guys, I'll give you a hint. If you want to go back and know the answer, go watch all of his sacks. Everything is available now. All the games, every snap of every play. Go watch them. Go watch Shedeur Sanders' sacks and see what they were.
What is he going to do when times get tough? That's going to be a question, because there might be some growing pains in New Orleans. For what you need compared to what you would.
Now, see, again, I would say that's a positive for Sanders. When times get tough, played at Jackson State. No resources, no glam, no pomp, no nothing. Goes to Colorado. Yeah, they start off the season with a couple of upsets over TCU and Nebraska, but then they get their ass kicked. They're a laughingstock. I think they lose their last 7 games. Times were tough, that first year at Colorado. And then, they went pulled their boots up and had a hell of a next season.
Get with Sanders. Can you get a player at 9, a Tyler Warren, Matthew Golden, Tedero McMillan, Mason Graham, whoever that might be, and then at 40, get a Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe? Like, which one of those would you be more intrigued by? I personally think you get the playmaker, and then you could get a quarterback very similar, I think, at 40 that you could.
That's insane. If you have Milroe and Ewers similar to Sanders. And again, you have to think about what you're saying. In that situation, Jacob is saying that Quinn Ewers and Jalen Milroe will succeed in the NFL similarly, if not better, than Shedeur Sanders. That's a big stretch, because if you do it the way he's talking about doing it, and you take Tyler Warren at 9 and Quinn Ewers at 40, and Quinn Ewers ends up being Jake Haener, you're double cooked because you wasted your second round pick and you also passed up on a quarterback. And now you're right back in the next year trying to get a quarterback.
You get it 9.
To me, get the quarterback, shut the door, see what happens with Shedeur Sanders for 3-4 years, and go from there. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure. This was a Jalen Milroe video turned into a Shedeur Sanders video. I've lost my voice. I got to go get some honey, some water or something. Get on down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.